In 1999, a teenage rancher stumbled on a fossil tail poking from a North Dakota cliff. Just another dinosaur skeleton, or so it seemed. But as layers of stone came away, scientists uncovered skin, muscle, and anatomy that shattered everything museums teach about how dinosaurs looked and moved. Today, Dakota, the most complete dinosaur body ever found, sits hidden in storage while outdated skeletons fill museum halls. Why would a discovery powerful enough to rewrite our understanding of evolution be kept from public view? If you are fascinated by the real story behind the fossil museums refused to display, please like and subscribe to follow the full investigation, because what comes next will change what you think you know about dinosaurs. 16-year-old Tyler Lyson was used to wide horizons and the quiet sweep of North Dakota's Badlands. On a summer day in 1999, he followed a familiar cattle path on his uncle's ranch near Marmarth, eyes scanning the crumbling cliffs for anything out of place. What caught his attention was not a full skeleton or an obvious skull, but a row of vertebrae, tailbones jutting from the sandstone like a set of ancient knuckles. For most, it might have seemed like another weathered fossil, one of thousands scattered through the Hell Creek Formation, but Tyler already had the instincts of a paleontologist. He knelt for a closer look and noticed something extraordinary. Patches of textured skin still clinging to the stone, the surface marked with the impressions of scales. If you enjoy this kind of deep dive into overlooked science, please like and subscribe, and stay with us as we follow Dakota from cliffside find to 4-ton cargo. In North Dakota, fossils found on private land belong to the landowner, not the state or any university. That meant the fate of this dinosaur rested with Tyler's family. The law offered no guarantee that a find like this would end up in a museum or even be studied. Many fossils from the region never see the inside of a lab. They are sold at auction, lost in private collections, or simply left to erode. Tyler's uncle could have chosen any of those paths. Instead, he gave his nephew the freedom to pursue science. This was a private choice with public consequences. Tyler knew the difference between a typical dinosaur skeleton and what he was seeing. Skin impressions are rare, and here they covered large sections of the tail and body. He realized this might be a dinosaur mummy, a specimen with not just bones but the outer envelope of the animal's body, preserved by some ancient accident of nature. The possibilities spun out in every direction. What if the rest of the dinosaur was just as well preserved? What secrets might be locked inside? With the site's legal status secure, Tyler began to plan. He would need help, serious equipment, careful hands, and time. What started as a teenager's discovery on a family ranch was about to become a years-long excavation, one that could challenge everything scientists thought they knew about dinosaurs. Dakota was no longer just a fossil, it was a question waiting for answers. Excavation began with the kind of logistics rarely seen outside major construction sites. If you find this kind of forensic story fascinating, please like and subscribe so you do not miss the rest of this investigation. Once the team confirmed that much of the dinosaur's body was locked inside the sandstone, they realized ordinary tools would not be enough. Over the course of 8 weeks in the summer of 2006, crews worked under the North Dakota sun, chiseling and sawing through rock that had shielded Dakota for more than 60 million years. The process was not just slow, it was physically punishing. Every exposed section had to be stabilized with layers of plaster and burlap, creating protective jackets that could withstand the stress of transport. The fossil came out in 3 enormous blocks, each encasing a different part of the animal. The largest alone tipped the scales at nearly 2 tons. Moving them meant bringing in forklifts and a flatbed truck, then carefully hoisting the jackets from the quarry floor with a crane. The convoy snaked its way from the Badlands to the North Dakota Heritage Center, the fossil swaddled in white plaster, its details still hidden from view. Each transfer carried risk. A single misstep could shatter irreplaceable skin or muscle impressions. Volunteers and paleontology staff worked side by side, improvising ramps and rolling platforms to maneuver the blocks through narrow lab doors. The fossil's sheer size forced the team to think beyond standard paleontology playbooks. Dakota was too big and too delicate for most museum equipment. By the end of the dig, the physical cost was measured not just in hours and sweat, but in the weight of 3 massive jackets, totaling nearly 4 tons. Only after the final block was secured in storage could scientists begin to consider the next challenge: how to look inside a fossil so dense that even hospital-grade X-rays could not penetrate it. The answer would come from an unlikely source: an industrial CT scanner built to inspect aircraft parts. Inside the Boeing facility, Dakota's plaster jackets rolled past aerospace engineers and into the path of a computed tomography scanner built for jet engines. If you enjoy deep dives like this, please like and subscribe for more investigations into hidden science. The fossil's density and size pushed the machine to its limits, but the resulting images offered a level of anatomical detail no paleontologist had seen from a dinosaur before. Layer by layer, the scans revealed a skin surface preserved in 3-dimensional form, not just as faint imprints, but as a continuous envelope wrapping the tail and limbs. The texture was unmistakable. Individual scales, each between 1 and 4 millimeters wide, formed a mosaic across the body. Some patches showed rows of polygonal scales, others a pebbled pattern, all arranged in distinct fields that would have caught the light differently as the animal moved. Beneath the skin, the scans picked up bands of mineralized muscle, following the contours of the original tissue. Instead of a flat, shrunken carcass, Dakota's tail bulged with the outlines of muscle bundles, preserved in cross-section. Ligament attachments and tendon scars stood out as denser streaks, mapping precisely where flesh once anchored to bone. In the forelimb, the data revealed thick pads below the fingers, evidence that Edmontosaurus did not walk on bare claws, but on fleshy, cushioned hands. These details went far beyond what artists or scientists could infer from skeletons alone. The skin's microstructure, the muscle's 3-dimensional relief, the exact placement of tissue pads, all were captured in stone. For the first time, researchers could measure the real shape and thickness of a dinosaur's body, scale by scale, fiber by fiber. The raw data from Dakota's scans would become the foundation for a new era of dinosaur modeling. At this stage, the evidence spoke for itself. Here was a record of lost biology, mapped with the precision of a forensic investigation. Dakota's journey from living animal to fossil required a sequence of rare chemical and environmental events. If this deep dive into how fossils form sounds interesting, please like and subscribe so we can keep bringing stories like Dakota to light. After death, the carcass lay exposed on a floodplain, its skin drying under the Cretaceous sun. Scavengers left bite marks on the bones and skin, but the body remained largely intact. This period of desiccation was crucial. As the skin lost moisture, it hardened into a natural shield, slowing decay and blocking the entry of microbes that would normally break down soft tissue. A sudden flood or sand-laden river buried the carcass before scavengers or bacteria could finish their work. The sediment was rich in minerals and, most importantly, quickly cut off oxygen. In these anaerobic conditions, decay nearly stopped. Water moving through the sand carried dissolved calcium and silica. Over time, these minerals seeped into the tissues, gradually replacing organic molecules cell by cell. The result was not true preservation of flesh, but a stone-for-stone copy, skin, muscle, and tendons transformed into rock, yet retaining their original shapes and textures. The matrix around Dakota was fine-grained sandstone, typical of a River Point bar in the Hell Creek Formation. This sediment packed tightly, limiting the flow of oxygen and further protecting the body from chemical breakdown. Early cementation by iron and calcium minerals locked the fossil in place, preserving even microscopic details like the pattern of scales and the attachment points for muscles and ligaments. Natural mummification like this is vanishingly rare. Most dinosaur fossils are only bones, stripped of context by scavengers, rot, and the grinding of time. In Dakota, the chemistry of survival left a complete anatomical record: skin shrunk tight to bone, muscle outlines, and even the hint of connective tissue. This level of detail would set the stage for a new kind of modeling, one grounded not in speculation, but in the mineralized echoes of real biology. Traditional dinosaur reconstructions rely on bones alone, treating the skeleton as a blueprint for the living animal. But Dakota's CT scans shattered those assumptions. If you enjoy this deep dive, please like and subscribe so you do not miss the next episode. By mapping the skin and muscle envelopes preserved around the tail and limbs, researchers could finally measure the true body volume of an Edmontosaurus, not just the bones, but the actual bulk of the animal in life. The results were dramatic. Where previous models imagined a lean, almost shrink-wrapped dinosaur, Dakota revealed a creature with a tail nearly a quarter thicker in cross-section than anyone expected. This was not a thin, whip-like appendage, but a powerful muscular structure packed with tissue. When the team ran the numbers, the implications rippled through every estimate of dinosaur mass and movement. The real body cavity was wider, deeper, and heavier than the skeleton suggested. Calculations based on Dakota's preserved contours pointed to a living mass about 25% greater than standard bone-based reconstructions. That is not a rounding error. It is the difference between a 3-ton animal and one tipping the scales at nearly 4 tons. This extra weight changed more than just museum labels. Muscle modeling, using the shape and attachment points seen in Dakota, suggested Edmontosaurus was not just heavier, but also more athletic than previously believed. Early analyses, drawing on the volume of preserved muscle, hinted that this dinosaur could reach running speeds up to 28 miles per hour, far beyond the 15 or 20 miles per hour estimated from skeletons alone. For a plant eater the size of a small truck, that kind of speed rewrites the rules of Cretaceous survival. But the real surprise was still waiting inside the tail's anatomy. If this deep dive matters to you, please like and subscribe. It helps us keep following stories like this. CT cross-sections of Dakota's tail revealed a structure unlike anything in standard dinosaur mounts. Instead of a slender, whip-like appendage, the scans showed a thick core of muscle, preserved in 3-dimensional relief. Bands of mineralized tissue wrapped the vertebrae, with attachment scars still visible where tendons once anchored flesh to bone. The tail's midsection, in particular, was nearly a quarter wider than the outlines predicted by skeletons alone, packed with the remnants of muscle bundles and connective tissue. This extra mass was not just cosmetic. It changed how Edmontosaurus moved and defended itself. The muscular tail acted as a counterweight, balancing the heavy body and shifting the center of gravity closer to the hips. That shift would have allowed for quicker turns and more stable walking, challenging the old image of a slow, lumbering plant eater. The preserved cross-sections suggested the tail could generate powerful lateral force, enough, researchers argued, to deliver a punishing blow to a predator or a rival. Far from being a passive appendage, the tail became a weapon, its bulk and structure recorded in stone. The posture of Edmontosaurus also came under scrutiny. With the tail held off the ground and supported by thick muscle, the animal's gait would have been more dynamic than textbook reconstructions. Fleshy pads on the forelimbs, visible in the CT data, implied a cushioned, weight-bearing stance. Combined with the robust tail, these features pointed to a dinosaur built for movement and defense, not just grazing. Dakota's anatomy forced a re-examination of how hadrosaurs interacted with their environment and with the predators that stalked them. One of the most complete dinosaur mummies ever uncovered sits in quiet storage, far from the crowds of Chicago or New York. If you find hidden science like this fascinating, please like and subscribe so we can bring more stories like this to light. Dakota, cataloged as NDGS 2000, resides at the North Dakota Heritage Center in Bismarck. Not in a glass case at the Smithsonian, not headlining the Field Museum. Instead, this fossil spends most of its existence behind locked collection doors, only occasionally brought out for brief public viewings. The bulk of Dakota remains in plaster jackets, still undergoing careful preparation decades after its discovery. Fragility and the sheer size of the specimen make it a challenge even for institutions with dedicated paleontology labs. For years, the fossil has been handled by a small team, with progress measured in inches rather than feet. Meanwhile, major museums continue to spotlight Edmontosaurus skeletons built from bare bones, sometimes using reconstructions that predate Dakota's scientific revelations by decades. Visitors to the Heritage Center may catch a glimpse of Dakota during a temporary display, but most days the fossil is out of sight, accessible only to researchers or curators. The public story of Edmontosaurus remains frozen in outdated silhouettes and old museum mounts, while the fossil that could change the narrative sits quietly in a regional collection. This is not just a matter of geography. It is a question of what stories institutions choose to tell, and which ones they keep in the back rooms. Remounting a single dinosaur skeleton with updated science is not a simple task. It is a 6-figure commitment. Costs range from $100,000 to $500,000 for each major specimen, not including months of preparation and the risk of damaging fragile fossils. If you want more deep dives like this, please like and subscribe. It really helps us keep digging. Permanent displays are often tied to donor agreements and decades-old exhibit plans. Changing a dinosaur's silhouette or posture means rewriting signage, redesigning dioramas, and sometimes risking the goodwill of the people who paid for the haul. Inertia is real in museum planning. Legal ownership adds another layer. In North Dakota and much of the American West, fossils found on private land belong to the landowner. There is no law requiring a scientifically important fossil to end up in a public collection or even to be studied at all. Dakota is an exception. Tyler Lyson's family chose science over auction, but for every Dakota there are countless other fossils locked away in private hands, traded at auctions, or left to weather out of the rock until their secrets are lost. Most museums still display what they already have: bone-based reconstructions, thin-tailed hadrosaurs, and outdated silhouettes. Even when new data surfaces, the cost of overhauling an entire gallery often outweighs the drive for accuracy. Meanwhile, the technology that revealed Dakota's secrets, industrial CT scanning, remains out of reach for most regional collections. Thousands of fossils sit in storage, unexamined by modern methods that could expose hidden skin, muscle, or even biomolecular traces. The real frontier is not just in the field or the lab, it is in the archives and storerooms, waiting for someone to ask the right questions and to invest in the answers. Without that investment, the future of paleontology will be shaped as much by budgets and laws as by bones. Right now, the most complete dinosaur body ever found sits unseen, while outdated models shape how millions imagine the prehistoric world. If you want the full story, please like this video and subscribe for more investigative documentaries that follow the evidence. As Dakota gathers dust, the gap between what scientists know and what museums show only widens. Science can rewrite our story, but only if we demand accuracy over nostalgia. What would you change if the truth were finally put on display? Share your thoughts below.